You wouldn't believe this if I told you, but a guy in America kicked his drug addiction by reading Chinese fantasy novels. Not rehab, not therapy, Chinese web fiction about flying swordsmen. Western media called it digital heroin. And honestly, they weren't wrong. So here's the question. Why are Chinese stories this addictive? Because China's been perfecting the formula for 3,000 years. Rewind to ancient China. No Bible, no Greek myths, just the Shanhai Jing. A book of pure nightmare fuel. 9-headed birds. Islands that eat ships. A giant flying eyeball. This was China's Lovecraft, written in 400 BC. Fast forward to the 1500s, Ming Dynasty. This is when China figured out capitalism meets storytelling. Street performers had a problem. Tell the whole story today. People won't pay tomorrow. So they invented the cliffhanger. Chapter-by-chapter format. Zhang Hui Ti. Binge watching. 500 years before Netflix. This is when the classics dropped. Journey to the West. Monkey King rebels against heaven. Gets punished. Gets a redemption arc. It's literally the hero's journey blueprint. Water Margin. 108 outlaws with backstories. This is the Avengers in 1500s China. But here's why it worked. In Ming China, if you weren't born rich, you stayed poor forever. Social mobility didn't exist. So people escaped into stories where the underdog wins, where rebels fight corrupt officials, where fate can be changed. That's the DNA. Ordinary person, hidden talent, brutal training, revenge, victory. Sound familiar? Jump to the 1900s. Jin Yong starts writing martial arts novels in newspapers. Kung Fu, secret manuals, forbidden love. 300 million copies sold in a country that was barely literate decades before. Why? Same formula, just updated. Then the internet hit. Chinese web novels exploded. Thousands of stories, updated daily. Writers feeding an algorithm that demanded one thing: keep readers hooked. They perfected dopamine architecture. Every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. Every arc introduces new power levels. One genre conquered the West. Xianxia, cultivation novels. Stories about nobodies who meditate their way to godhood. You're not born special. You work your way to immortality. It's the American dream, but Chinese. That's what Kevin found. A translation site called Wuxia World. A story about a bullied village kid who discovers he can absorb spiritual energy. Kevin said it himself. I wanted to see what happened next, more than I wanted to get high. So why are Chinese novels addictive? Because for 3,000 years, China has been perfecting the drug of hope. Not shallow hope, brutal hope. The kind that says you can change your fate if you suffer enough. The Monkey King rebels and loses. Gets buried under a mountain for 500 years. Then gets a second chance. That's the message. That's the hook. China didn't invent storytelling, but it invented the cliffhanger, the power fantasy, the progression system every game and anime uses today. And now it's going global. Chinese novels translated into 50 languages. Black Myth. Wukong sold 20 million copies. This isn't cultural export. This is invasion. Because the best stories don't need subtitles. They just promise you there's always one more chapter. Kevin quit heroin by reading about immortal cultivators. That makes perfect sense. The best replacement for a drug is a better drug. And China's been cooking it for 3,000 years. You're already hooked. See you next time.